Look, buddy, we got a call. You don't exactly fit the profile of the new homeowner here.
I'm just moving my boxes, officer. I live in this house.
Drop the defensive attitude. Put the box down and hand over your ID now.
I'm not dropping anything. Step back off my front porch.
Last warning. Turn around and put your hands on the wall. You're being detained.
Monday late morning, 10:12 cold sun and a sharp crosswind. The porch camera catches a man in a charcoal zip-up carrying a taped moving box against his chest, while another box sits by the door frame and a third waits on the stone step. A squad car door shuts off screen. Boots scrape across the front walk. Before the man can reach the keypad, a uniformed officer steps into the narrow strip between the column and the front door and says, "Set the box down." Nobody is going inside until ownership is verified. The porch chime gives a weak electronic chirp, then cuts out under a gust of wind that rattles the wreath hook against the glass. Marcus Thomas lowers the box carefully instead of dropping it. The tape on one corner has already started peeling from the cold. In the driveway, a rental truck idles with its hazard lights blinking against a row of neat houses and clean winter lawns. Noah Ellis, a skinny kid in work gloves with a yellow carpenter's pencil tucked behind one ear, freezes halfway down the ramp with a lamp base in his hands and stares at the officer like he is waiting for a punchline that never comes. Officer Julian Whitaker keeps one hand near his belt and lifts his chin toward the open truck. Neighbor reported suspicious activity. Unknown male entering a vacant residence. Boxes don't prove occupancy. Marcus looks at the front door, then back at Whitaker. The closing packet is inside the cab. The keys are in the lock envelope. The movers are on the clock. Please step aside. That should have been enough for a brief check and a clean apology. Instead, the officer widens his stance until the porch turns into a wall of navy fabric and hard plastic. Behind him, Claire Maddox stands at the edge of her walk in a camel coat, one hand wrapped around a phone, the other tucked under her elbow, as though she has appointed herself guardian of the block. She does not yell. She does not need to. The smugness on her face does the work for her. Then she adds the line that hardens everything. Ask him which unit he belongs to. He doesn't live here. The house is not a unit. It is a detached, single-family home, brick front, white trim, fresh transfer of title. Whitaker glances at her, then back at Marcus, and something petty settles into his expression. Sir, until this is sorted out, you are not crossing that threshold. On the porch feed, the audio crackles again, and the wind smears the next few syllables. But Noah hears enough from the driveway. His grip slips on the lamp base. It knocks lightly against the truck rail, a tiny sound swallowed by the engine, and his face goes pale. The second officer arriving behind Whitaker has not said a word yet, but she is already watching Claire instead of the house. That detail matters later. Right then, the only thing anyone can feel is how quickly a front porch has turned into a checkpoint. The keypad on the door blinks once, waiting for a code. No one is being allowed to enter. Monday, late morning, 10:16. Cold sun and wind pushing dry leaves across the curb. Marcus does not perform outrage. He shifts one box with his shoe so no one trips over it and says, "The lockbox code rotated at 1000. The locksmith is due inside the hour. The alarm company window closes at noon. This delay costs money." Whitaker answers like he has been handed an excuse to tighten the screws. Then maybe you should have thought of that before trying to force entry into a house that isn't yours. Claire takes 2 slow steps closer, far enough to be heard, not close enough to be accountable. People keep pretending around here. Contractors, delivery drivers, solicitors. Someone has to say something. Noah sets the lamp down in the truck and walks toward the porch, shoulders tight. He told us the address before sunrise. We loaded this job off the settlement sheet. The couch, the desk, the kitchen cartons, all labeled for this house. Whitaker cuts him off, back to the truck. The young mover stops. He's the client. Back Whitaker repeats, pointing now. The second officer, Officer Dana Mercer, finally speaks. Her voice is lower, quieter. "Sir, do you have ID on you?" Marcus nods toward the passenger side of the truck. Wallet in the jacket on the front seat. Closing file in a blue banker's box. There's also a temporary utility activation printout. Claire folds her arms tighter. Anyone can print papers. That line lands because she says it with the calm certainty of somebody accustomed to being believed first and questioned later. Whitaker takes it and runs with it. Exactly. Which means nobody enters until there's verification. Marcus watches him for 2 beats. His calm is not passive. It has edges. Verification is fine. A forced public spectacle is not. Mercer glances at him when he says that, and it is the first small clue that the exchange is not as ordinary as it looks. Something about the wording catches. Not fear, not panic. Professional control sharpened to a thin line. Whitaker does not notice, or he notices and resents it. Sir, this isn't a spectacle unless you make it one. The porch camera catches the front glass reflecting the street behind them, one neighbor slowing with a dog leash in hand, another phone lifting chest-high a delivery van hesitating at the corner. Claire has managed to turn a move-in into an audience event in under 4 minutes. Marcus looks at the crowd, then at the officer planted in his doorway and says nothing for a second. That silence is worse for Whitaker than an argument. The hum of the nearby truck engine, the brittle clack of a loose flagpole ring down the block, the far-off whine of a leaf blower, all of it suddenly sounds too loud on the recording. Then Marcus speaks in a measured tone. Dispatch can verify the call details. Give the incident number. Whitaker's jaw tightens. He had wanted compliance or anger. Instead, he gets procedure. And Claire, standing on her lawn like she started none of this, lowers her phone the moment she realizes the conversation has become precise. Mercer's eyes shift to Whitaker's shoulder mic. She still has not moved to block the door. The keypad times out and goes dark. Monday, late morning, 10:21, bright glare off the front windows. Whitaker does not provide the incident number. He asks for Marcus's name again, slow and skeptical, as though forcing repetition might produce a contradiction. Marcus Thomas. Spell it. Marcus spells it once. Claire lets out a soft laugh that barely carries. Convenient. Mercer turns her head. Ma'am, stop talking over the stop. Claire lifts both palms. This is my street, too. Whitaker gestures toward the truck. Go get the ID, slowly. Marcus steps off the porch. Whitaker shadows him so closely that Noah mutters, "Come on, man," under his breath before he can stop himself. Mercer hears that, too. She gives Noah a quick look that says, "Be careful, not be quiet." The distinction matters. At the passenger door, Marcus reaches for the handle and pauses. Before anything else, what exactly is being claimed here? Whitaker's answer comes too fast. Possible trespass, possible unlawful entry, suspicious occupancy. That is not specific, Marcus says. It's specific enough for right now. Marcus turns halfway toward him. Then say it plainly. What conduct is being alleged? Whitaker's voice rises. Sir, don't start with the street lawyer routine. Noah flinches. Claire smiles without showing teeth. Marcus opens the passenger door, removes the jacket, and takes out a wallet. He does not hand it over immediately. Repeat the incident number. Whitaker stares at him. Why? So it's captured accurately. That lands harder than it should. Mercer looks at the Bodycam, then back at Marcus. One of the neighbors at the curb lifts a phone higher. Claire suddenly stops looking pleased and starts looking wary. Whitaker gives the number clipped and annoyed. Marcus repeats it once evenly and says, "Thank you." That is the educational beat, but it never sounds like a lesson. It sounds like a man refusing to let a moment drift into vagueness. Whitaker takes the ID and studies it. The wind flicks the edge of a moving manifest against the seat. Mercer leans just enough to see the photo. Her forehead tightens. Sir, she says to Whitaker low enough that the porch cam only catches fragments under the wind. Run it before we say anything else. Whitaker ignores the caution. He holds the ID between two fingers and glances from the card to the house to Marcus as though the facts are insulting him. This address isn't on here. It was purchased this morning, Marcus says. That's how moving works. Claire jumps in again. Exactly. This neighborhood has standards. New buyers don't just arrive with a truck and no notice. Mercer turns toward her more directly now. Ma'am, ownership transfer can happen without your notice. Claire's face hardens. Then maybe your department should stop being so casual. It is a small sentence, but Mercer hears the possession in it. Your department? Not our city? Not the police? Your department. She looks back at Marcus, then at Whitaker, and the whole porch seems to lean forward, waiting to see which way the stop breaks. Instead, Whitaker keys his radio with too much force and talks over the dispatcher's first acknowledgement. That clipped overlap creates the first real micro-consequence of the day. The return transmission is partially buried in mic rub and wind hiss, and the house number comes back garbled. Whitaker seizes on the confusion as though the static proved him right. See, even dispatch can't match it. Marcus's expression does not change, but Noah's face drains another shade lighter. The kid glances at the stack of labeled boxes on the porch, then at the house, then at the officer blocking the door. For the first time, it looks possible that the boxes could sit there all afternoon while the whole block watches, and the locksmith window is still shrinking. Mercer reaches for her own radio, but Whitaker shoots her a look that says stand down. That look will matter too. The wind catches the top sheet of the moving manifest and slaps it against the dashboard glass. Monday late morning, 10:27, cold light the porch stone holding no warmth. The first obstacle does not come from force. It comes from humiliation stretched long enough to feel deliberate. Marcus places both hands where everyone can see them and says, "Please request a supervisor and please confirm the exact claimed basis for preventing entry onto privately owned property." Whitaker laughs once short and ugly. "You don't get to script this stop." "No," Marcus says, "but accuracy matters." Claire points to the stacked cartons by the door. Those boxes could belong anywhere. Noah cannot stay silent anymore. He steps up from the driveway with his gloves still on. The labels have room names on them: kitchen, study, main bedroom. This is the job. Whitaker swings toward him. "Did anyone ask you?" The kid swallows and almost steps back. "Almost. No, but he paid for the truck, the crew, and the time. You're costing him the whole move. That is Noah's first brave action, clumsy and honest." Claire rolls her eyes. Mercer looks at him with something close to concern. Marcus uses the opening: supervisor name and ETA. Whitaker says nothing. Marcus repeats it: supervisor name and ETA. Mercer answers before Whitaker can block her. "Sergeant Leah Carver is zone supervisor. No ETA yet." Whitaker snaps Mercer. "But the name is already out there. A neighbor at the curb says it into his phone while recording." Marcus nods once. "Thank you." Whitaker turns his back half an inch to key the radio again. That half turn lets the porch camera catch the right side of his face clearly, for the first time, jaw flexing, lips pulled, thin irritation shading into something more personal. He does not like being managed by composure. He likes the version of the story where he is the only one entitled to define the scene. Claire senses that and feeds it. Ask him how he got the key. Marcus answers before Whitaker can, through a lawful closing. Claire tilts her head. On a Monday morning. That is how calendars work. Mercer almost hides a reaction at that. Almost. The radio pops with dispatch audio. A bus rumbles past the far end of the street and smears part of the return. Whitaker asks for a repeat louder this time. The dispatcher comes back with the caller's complaint summary. Suspicious moving activity. Unknown male attempting access concern for burglary because owner believed absent. Mercer's eyes slide toward Claire immediately. Marcus says who believed absent. Claire lifts her chin. The previous owner moved weeks ago. The sale closed, Marcus says. Whitaker cuts in. "Sir, until ownership is confirmed, you wait." Marcus nods once, then says the line that slices deeper than volume would have. Then preserve the scene accurately. Because this is already bigger than your guess. Whitaker hears the warning, but mistakes it for bluff. That is the second quiet error. He orders Noah back, again tells another mover to stop unloading, and asks Marcus whether he is refusing commands. The words are escalating faster than the facts. Mercer looks from the driver's seat paperwork to the front porch to Claire's phone, and knows without saying it that the wrong person is being treated as the threat. Inside the truck, a phone begins buzzing against the vinyl seat. Nobody reaches for it. The porch camera catches the vibration as a tiny blur against the jacket sleeve, then the screen goes dark again. Whatever is calling can wait for one more minute. The crowd on the sidewalk cannot. Monday late morning, 10:34, wind easing, bright sun tension rising anyway. The evidence ladder starts with something deceptively simple: names, logs, and who said what first. Mercer steps toward the truck. May this officer inspect the closing packet? Marcus looks at her. Yes. The blue box. Whitaker objects immediately. No need. Dispatch is still running it. There is absolutely a need, Mercer says. He glares at her, then at the watching phones, then gives a bitter little shrug meant to say, "Fine, waste your time." Mercer retrieves the blue banker's box and opens it on the truck hood. A settlement statement flaps under her hand, a utility activation sheet, a locksmith appointment confirmation, a title company envelope. The paper edges snap in the wind. Claire from the walk says printed paperwork means nothing. Mercer does not look up. It means more than your assumption. Whitaker steps closer. Run the name again, Marcus says, and confirm the callback number from the original caller. Whitaker turns. You don't direct dispatch. Marcus meets his eyes. No, but if the premise of the stop rests on a complaint, then the complaint source matters. There it is again, that slightly too practiced calm. Noah notices it now too. The kid looks from Marcus to Mercer as though he has realized their client is not just composed. He is accustomed to structure. Dispatch returns with a queue delay and asks units to stand by. The wait should take seconds. It takes nearly 3 minutes because another priority call interrupts the channel. That delay becomes the silence beat. No one says much. The truck engine throbs. The loose gutter downspout on the side of the house ticks in the wind. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then again, then quits. Whitaker shifts his weight, not because he is cold, but because the quiet is making the scene look exactly as bad as it feels. Noah pulls out his phone and starts recording openly. For the move log, he says when Whitaker spots it. You recording me, Whitaker asks. I'm recording the delay. Claire takes a sharp breath. This is getting ridiculous. Noah turns his phone toward the boxes and the blocked doorway. It was ridiculous first. That is his second appearance, and his second brave action is better than the first. Short, plain, hard to dismiss. Then the evidence friction arrives from a different angle. The porch camera app on the homeowner account sends a cloud alert to Marcus's phone, but he cannot unlock it because Whitaker has shifted the encounter into that tense pre-detention posture where every movement gets scrutinized. Mercer sees the notification flash on the screen through the passenger window. Doorbell footage available. She says, "Sir, is that your security system?" Marcus answers it is now. Installer left remote access active after transfer. Claire's face changes for the first time. A quick flicker, small but visible. Whitaker notices too late. That doesn't prove occupancy. Marcus says no, it proves recording. That one sentence changes the temperature by a degree. Not enough to end the stop. Enough to put everyone on notice that whatever story Claire told is no longer the only one that exists. Dispatch crackles again, still incomplete, still delayed, and Whitaker steps away to hear better. In doing so, he exposes the front door for one brief second. Nobody crosses it. Marcus does not move. He just watches the opening appear and close again, as controlled as a man waiting for the right piece of the board to shift. Monday late morning, 10:39, sun high enough to throw sharp porch column shadows. The midpoint twist detonates through a radio speaker, not a narrator's explanation. Whitaker presses the mic and says, "Dispatch confirms subject identity and property access. Possible fraudulent move-in." The dispatcher comes back clean this time. No bus, no wind burst, no overlap. Unit 12 confirms subject Marcus Thomas spelling match. Additional note attached to transfer address 118 Ashburton Lane. Stand by. Whitaker glances at Claire first, not Marcus, and that tiny instinct exposes him. He wants confirmation from the neighbor more than from the system. Then, dispatch returns with the line that reorders the whole block. Unit 12 attached advisory indicates Marcus Thomas is listed as incoming resident and city-designated principal security contact. Cross-reference also returns active executive command credentials Boston Police Department. Please advise if supervisor is on scene. Nobody moves for half a second. Even the truck sounds farther away. Noah lowers his phone without meaning to. Mercer turns fully toward Marcus. Claire's mouth parts, then shuts. Whitaker blinks once hard as if the radio just betrayed him in public. Marcus does not lean into the moment. He does not announce himself. He simply says Sergeant Carver is not on scene yet. Dispatch answers copy. Be advised command notification may be required due to rank match. Claire whispers, "That can't be right." Marcus finally looks at her directly. "You were very certain for someone who never asked." Whitaker's posture collapses and stiffens at the same time. The smug certainty drains out of him, replaced by the ugly panic of someone realizing the scene is now bigger than ego can manage. He tries to recover with procedure. "Sir, why didn't you say—" Marcus cuts him off. "Because ownership should not depend on title, and respect should not depend on rank." That is the line the neighbors repeat later. That is the line the local station uses carefully because it needs no exaggeration. Mercer hands the ID back with both hands, a subtle formality that tells the whole porch she now understands exactly what kind of error they are standing in. The credential wallet opens for a second in the transfer. On the inner card, the camera catches the printed details as Marcus closes it again. DOB, the 14th of September, 1978. Issue the 2nd of May, 2024. Expiry the 2nd of May, 2027. The dates are on the credential, not on the incident. Even that small factual neatness will matter later. Whitaker tries to pivot. This was a response to a complaint. No one was targeting. Claire interrupts him too quickly. "I called because something looked wrong." Mercer turns on her. "You said owner absent." Claire straightens. "I said unfamiliar." The porch audio catches the lie forming in real time. Marcus's phone buzzes again. This time he takes it out in one smooth motion. The app screen shows a fisheye image of the same porch from 40 minutes earlier installers checking the chime transfer, complete remote access active. He does not shove it in anyone's face. He only says evidence preservation begins now. That sentence is not dramatic. It is administrative, which makes it lethal. Monday late morning, 10:45. Thin wind, no warmth, too many witnesses to pretend otherwise. The second obstacle appears the moment the truth should have ended everything. Whitaker does not apologize. He starts protecting himself. "Let's all calm down," he says, which is what people say when they are already calculating paperwork. There was confusion. Nobody was detained. Mercer looks at him. "You blocked entry." Whitaker answers without meeting her eyes. "For verification." Claire seizes the same lane. Then there's no issue. He can just move in now. Marcus does not take the easy exit. No, the issue is the false premise, the public interference, and the record that now exists. Noah looks from one adult to the other like he is learning in real time how fast people try to rename what just happened. His chest rises and falls under the safety vest he threw on over a sweatshirt. The pencil behind his ear has slipped halfway down. He pushes it back up with a shaking glove. Sergeant Leah Carver arrives at 10:49. Her cruiser stops hard at the curb. She comes up the walk, reading the scene in layers, boxes, phones, out neighbor stiff, Whitaker talking too much, Mercer holding paperwork, Marcus standing still. A good supervisor can smell the wrong version of a story before hearing it. Carver gets within 6 feet and asks only one question. Who blocked the homeowner from entry? Nobody answers immediately. That silence says enough. Whitaker starts anyway. Complaint of a possible burglary. Incomplete dispatch return. Temporary hold pending verification. Carver turns to Mercer. Did he ask for supervisor? Yes. Incident number repeated for capture? Yes. Any lawful basis left now? Mercer says no, Sergeant. Whitaker opens his mouth, but Carver's raised hand stops him. Hold that. This is the near-loss moment because even now the record could still get softened into confusion unless somebody locks it down. Carver asks Marcus whether he wants medical, whether anyone touched him, whether anyone entered the home, whether any property was delayed or exposed to theft risk. She is building the spine of the report. Whitaker sees it happening and realizes the paperwork will not be friendly. Then comes his crack moment. He reaches for his shoulder mic, misses it, and has to grab again. The body cam catches the tiny tremor in his fingers. When he speaks, his voice is lower than before, almost stripped of color. Sergeant, there was neighborhood concern. That was the basis. Carver says neighborhood concern is not a basis. Whitaker swallows so hard the mic picks it up as a dry click. He looks down at the porch stone instead of at Marcus. It is not remorse. It is the first glimpse of genuine fear. Claire tries one more pivot. This is being turned into something political. Marcus answers without raising his voice. It became something public the moment you weaponized suspicion. Noah stands by the truck with his phone still recording. He is not shaking anymore. He is angry now, and the anger makes him straighter. Carver requests badge numbers on scene caller callback confirmation and CAD notes readback. Whitaker's face tightens with each item. Then Carver notices the mover's downtime and asks when unloading stopped. Noah answers with exactness because he has been staring at the truck clock the whole time. 10:13. That time goes into the chain. So does the locksmith miss risk. So does the crowd. So does the blocked door. Procedure is starting to do what outrage cannot. It is building a cage out of specifics. Monday early afternoon, 12:08, colder shade across the porch, the sun shifting off the front steps. The climax does not happen with shouting. It happens in a conference room that smells faintly of printer heat and stale coffee because that is where evidence becomes hard enough to survive denial. By 12:08, Marcus is inside the house with only the essentials brought in. Movers resume under Mercer's watch while a city legal liaison joins by speakerphone. Carver has already directed preservation of all Bodycam uploads, dispatch audio, and CAD entries. Marcus sends a formal evidence preservation notice before noon using the homeowner Wi-Fi the installer activated earlier. The email acknowledgement arrives with a gray header and a mechanical reply tone that sounds almost insultingly small compared to the size of the morning. Still, that thin little chime locks one door against deletion. Claire spends the first hour pretending this will vanish. It does not. At 13:42, Internal Affairs investigator Renee Alvarez arrives at district headquarters with a portable replay station and a printout of the preliminary CAD timeline. At 13:57, the first friction point almost breaks the sequence. Whitaker's Bodycam upload shows timestamp jitter for 32 seconds around the first dispatch return, enough to invite the exact credibility attack his attorney will later attempt. But the recovery is procedural, not dramatic. Alvarez cross-references the porch cam cloud file, Mercer's Bodycam, and the dispatcher console log. 3 sources, 3 clock paths, slight lag on 1, stable metadata on 2. The mismatch shrinks from doubt to technical nuisance. The replay screen shows the porch in fisheye distortion, bright sky blown out at the edge, the column curving slightly from lens warp. It is imperfect footage, exactly the kind real investigations live on. Claire's line comes through anyway. Ask him which unit he belongs to. He doesn't live here. Alvarez pauses the frame. Single-family residence, he says to nobody in particular. Carver slides over the CAD printout. The dot matrix grain leaves faint black dust on the side of her thumb. On line 4, the caller summary reads, owner believed absent. On line 7, dispatch notes, incoming resident verification pending. On line 9, after the clean return, a unit annotation appears subject-matched executive command credentials. Below that, the unit microphone opens for half a second longer than Whitaker intended, capturing his whispered curse before the channel drops. That one raw human sound destroys the later claim that the scene remained neutral. At 14:11, Alvarez asks for badge trace and chain of command email confirmation. The district admin clerk brings the printout still warm from the machine, one corner bent toner, a little heavy on the department seal. Badge assignment. Shift roster. Supervisor map. Whitaker was not improvising under uncertainty anymore after 10:39. He stayed in it after the truth arrived. The room goes quiet. Marcus sits at the end of the table in a dark overcoat, no grand speech, no performance. Carver has already apologized once, privately and plainly. Mercer gave her statement without trimming the embarrassment out of it. Noah is not in the room, but his phone clip of the truck clock and blocked doorway has already been emailed in with the subject line, "Move delay, start 10:13. The kid's spelling is rough. The timestamp is not. Then Alvarez asks the only question that matters. After dispatch returned identity and residency, why did the obstruction continue? Nobody answers for Whitaker. He finally tries. Scene control. Alvarez looks from the replay screen to the CAD printout to the chain email. No, that was ego control. The evidence slam is not loud. It is complete. The fisheye porch view, the Bodycam angle, the caller log, the badge trace, the preservation email. Each one alone can be explained around. Together, they close every exit. Monday late afternoon, 1626 overcast building in cold deepening toward evening. Consequences do not arrive as a miracle. They arrive in layers over weeks and then months, because systems move slower than outrage and still faster than denial when the paperwork is clean. First comes the immediate administrative response. Whitaker is pulled from field duty pending investigation. Claire receives notice that a knowingly inaccurate complaint may trigger review for false reporting exposure depending on final findings. The wording is cautious, bureaucratic, and devastating. She cannot talk her way around a recorded premise that shifted under replay. Then the public side starts to harden. Because Marcus Thomas is not merely a homeowner, but the Boston police chief, there is no way to bury the optics. But he does not use the office as a club. He uses it as insulation against the exact defense Whitaker hoped for. In the first internal memo, he recuses himself from disciplinary authority and directs outside review. That move matters more than any angry statement could have. It strips the case of personal revenge and leaves only conduct. Noah appears a third time at the front edge of the fallout, though not in uniform and not on television. He is back on Ashburton Lane 2 mornings later, carrying the last lamp crate in because the move was rescheduled in pieces. He pauses in the finished foyer, sees the boxes finally where they belonged from the start, and lets out a breath so long his shoulders drop 2 full inches. Glad this part at least looks normal, he says. It is the first time he sounds his age again. Weeks later, Alvarez's review finds that Whitaker escalated a neighbor's bias narrative into an unsupported property obstruction, ignored a request for specificity, resisted supervisory correction, and continued controlling the scene after dispatch supplied disconfirming information. Mercer's statement is credited. Carver's early preservation steps are credited. The Bodycam imperfections are documented, not hidden, and because they were documented, they lose their power to distort. Claire's moment of collapse comes not on the porch, but at a voluntary interview when the replay screen catches her saying, "Owner believed absent" in one clip and unfamiliar in another. She stares at the tabletop so long the investigator has to ask whether she heard the question. When she finally answers, her voice is paper thin. "That is not how it sounded in my head." That line does not save her. It only proves she understood too late how different private assumptions look when pinned to public record. The eventual discipline includes suspension, followed by separation from field assignment for Whitaker mandatory bias and property rights training revisions, and a new district requirement that any residence access complaint include caller relationship claimed knowledge basis and on-scene verification steps before physical obstruction unless an immediate threat is visible. In plainer terms, no more turning a porch into a checkpoint because a neighbor feels entitled to be gatekeeper. At the civil layer, there is a formal settlement. Not a lottery, not a cinematic jackpot, a structured agreement with monitoring, reporting, and policy revision. The money matters less than the mechanism. Preservation notice, recorded statements, review conference, document exchange. Final language negotiated over months, not hours. That is how real accountability survives. Monday evening, 1814, porch light on colder air, the block finally quiet. The last image is small enough to miss if someone expects Triumph to look bigger. Marcus stands inside the front door with a coffee in one hand and an unopened box cutter in the other. Movers are gone. The house still smells like cardboard paint, touch-up, and cold air that slipped in too many times. Noah is at the curb with the last empty dolly heading back to the truck. He glances over his shoulder. Marcus lifts the coffee cup once and thanks. Noah touches the pencil behind his ear and grins, embarrassed by the recognition, then walks on. Across the street, Claire's blinds stay closed. The revised complaint protocol goes live later than anyone would like, and sooner than some people hoped. Mercer volunteers for the training rollout. Carver signs the supervisory memo with a hand steadier than Whitaker's ever was that morning. The replay clips are used in instruction not because the city enjoys shame, but because memory is shorter than policy unless policy is attached to something people can see. And the central fact remains the most uncomfortable one: the stop should have ended the same way if Marcus Thomas had been a teacher, a mechanic, a nurse, or a man with no title anyone recognized. The rank reveal changed the consequences. It did not create the right. The porch camera still works. The fisheye image still bends the column and blows out the sky at the edge. It is not elegant evidence. It is enough. The end. The safest response to a bad stop is rarely the loudest one. It is the clearest one. Ask the reason in one short sentence. Ask for the incident or case number and repeat it so the recording captures it. Request a supervisor. Preserve evidence early, especially video caller logs and any written acknowledgement that a record exists. This kind of case also shows a hard truth. Documentation often matters more than emotion. Calm does not mean weakness. Precision does not mean surrender. A clean timeline can carry more weight than a perfect speech ever will. Most misconduct cases do not turn on one dramatic moment. They turn on small specifics that line up and refuse to move. Quiet accountability is still accountability when the paper trail holds. Some elements are selectively fictionalized for education.